The process of UVing has always been one of Modo's strengths, and in 11.1 the UVing tools have seen some significant additions and improvements. To help with the arrangement of efficient UV maps, there is now a UV coverage indicator in the bottom right-hand corner of the UV texture viewport. As the UVs are edited, this number will update dynamically, helping you to maximize the space available. To make it easier to arrange UVs, a new box transform tool has been added. This draws a bounding box around any selected UVs, and then dragging in the viewport will move the UVs within it. Handles on the corners of the box will allow you to scale the selection with the edges of the bounding box automatically snapping to the edge of the UV area. With the Show Rotation Handle option active, you're also able to rotate the selection and also position the pivot point of that rotation, with the pivot automatically snapping to the bounding box edge and corners. When creating primitive objects, Modo has always created UVs for them by default. The problem was that the UVs created were a standard layout for that primitive, and if the resulting shape was a deformed version of the standard primitive, the UVs wouldn't reflect this. In 11.1, there is now a Distortion Compensation option when creating a primitive, which allows the UVs to dynamically update as the primitive is being defined. A new Split and Sew tool has been added. This allows you to easily separate UVs by painting over them. And by right-clicking and defining a radius, you can specify how close the brush needs to be to an edge in order for it to be split. By holding down the Shift key, you invert the tool, and now when you paint over the disconnected UVs within the defined radius area, they'll be sewn together, and positioned based on the defined Connect To option. By holding down Ctrl and Shift when running the UV Move tool, you can temporarily activate the Tear-Off function, making the process of moving and positioning UVs with the tool a much more fluid experience. The UVs to Svg Export feature has been enhanced to give better control over the size of the output. There is now a drop-down in the export dialog that allows you to define a real-world unit. This is useful for packaging or industrial design where accurate patterns need to be produced. The UV Relax tool has been improved with an additional boundary locking option. The Maintain option will move points along a boundary edge whilst maintaining the angle between the boundary edge and the incoming edge. A Select Overlapping Polygon tool has been added for detecting potential problems within a UV map. The Cross Intersection option will select UVs overlapping with other UVs. Self-Intersection will select twisted UVs, and Flipped will select UVs with inconsistent UV texture coordinates. A Texel Density toolset has been added. This allows you to quickly set the relative scale of UV islands based on the number of pixels per meter. This is useful for dealing with texture density mismatches across a scene, helping to maintain standardized levels of texture detail across an asset or environment. And finally, the UV texture viewport has been updated so that by default it only shows one UV tile. Also, the UDIM number is displayed automatically if more than one tile is visible.